Welcome back to Remotely Speaking Up. And this week, Meighan Newhouse from Inspirant Group is here to talk to us about unconsulting, and you'll find out what that is shortly. And we're talking about unconsulting as it relates to engaging your independent workforce. So there's been a lot of talk about the growing gig economy, and also since the shift towards remote work, it's opened a lot of avenues for persons to work in different ways, besides on full-time contracts. So Meighan's company Inspirant is very much about the business, or they're very much focused on business transformation. And that's one of the areas that they help companies with. So Meighan, I'll turn over to you, and you can tell our audiences first, what got you into this line of business? Why working with consultants and helping companies in that area?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, Rochelle. It's so great to see you today. So yeah, I'm Meighan Newhouse. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Inspirant Group. As you mentioned, we are the home of the unconsultants. And, you know, I have always wanted to help people. When I was younger, I was a psych major at university, and I thought I would be a psychologist. I just wanted to help people. That didn't work out for a number of reasons. And I thought, how else can I help people? And at the time when I was graduating, it was to help people really learn to love their work, love their jobs. So I did that through creating learning and development opportunities. I thought if I could help people learn the skills and get trained up to really enjoy the work they were doing, that would be fulfilling my mission. And that's just evolved over the years. I had my own first, my company was Gillette Allen Consulting. I had my own boutique learning and development consulting firm. And I was a gigster when I was doing that. I was in the States, we call it a 1099 contractor. And I had, a bunch of gigs that I worked on for 4 to 5 years. But during that time, I really was missing being part of a bigger team. Being a part of something bigger than just myself. And so in 2017, I co-founded Inspirant Group with my 2 partners. And I still feel like I'm true to my mission in helping people. With our team, it's with the culture, it's creating a psychologically safe work environment, a place where people wake up and they're just so excited to be a part of what we're doing. And with our clients, it's solving their toughest problems. There's so much change in the world right now, and it's really helping them to, when they get that nugget of inspiration, to be able to help them take that all the way through till they transform their organization.
Yeah, and I mean, that is so necessary right now, where companies, like over the last year and a half, they felt just thrown completely out of their comfort zone. So now what does culture look like in the digital space? What does organizational culture look like when you're talking about people that you're working with who may not necessarily stay with the company, but you still want to, as you said, create that psychological safety and make people feel included?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that you go about doing this? What's the biggest challenge you find, for example, working with clients? What do they come to you for often?
So our clients, as I said, we work with really large companies. So often they've been doing things the way they've always done them, or you've got people in roles that if it's not broke, don't fix it. Excuse me. So we love to find companies where there's somebody in there, some decision maker who says, I think this can be done better. I think this can be more efficient, more effective, more fun. We think work should be fun. You spend so much time working each week. Let's actually enjoy it. Let's wake up and feel excited to get going on our day. So we like to find those people that are ready for a change. I'm sorry. We like to find those people who are ready for a change, who are, thinking, gosh, how can we do things differently? So they might need an outside partner, like a consulting organization who has experience and expertise in these types of projects, who have seen things that happen. I think a differentiator for my team, though, is that we are really good at assimilating to different client cultures, and we are really good at listening. So even though we may think we've seen a problem before, every problem's unique, every situation's unique, every culture is unique. So our team is really good at listening and understanding, and really kind of customizing any sort of solutions for that particular team and that particular organization.
Yeah. And that's really good. I can see where you said originally in terms of your need to help people and wanting to study psychology and how that's transferred. And we have that in common because my first degree was psychology and my aim was the same thing. I thought, okay, I want to help people, then like yourself for different reasons, didn't go into it. But then I got into the HR space and I think I had the same mindset as yourself, like, let me help people, let me make sure they have the best work experience. But then of course you get into organizations and you realize that's not always the reality and it's not so simple. There are a lot of barriers, there are a lot of things that contextual things within the organizations that stop that from becoming the reality. What do you find, particularly with the culture? What are often the cultures that hinder that sort of transformation process?
They are, as I would say, they are unintentional cultures. So I've heard people say, well, culture just happens organically. And I think, yeah, it can, but then it's probably not going to be what you want it to be. I think that leaders and organizations really need to be intentional about the culture. So if you want a culture of innovation, if you want a culture that's going to stay ahead of your competitors, if you want a culture that's going to get the best out of the people working there, you have to make intentional choices. And I think especially now, Rochelle, the entire world is a competitor for talent now that we've proven that we can be successful working remotely. You and I became friends during the pandemic, didn't we? And I'm in the States and you're in the UK. It's very easy to do that right now. So organizations that understand now that anyone can work from anywhere and be successful and be productive, they're going to have the cultures. I mean, that's like the number one thing people are looking for right now is that flexibility and that trust. You know, don't hire people you can't trust to get their work done. It doesn't make any sense to me. So, I think now is a huge time of disruption, starting with COVID and all of the changes we've seen since then. It is the time, if your culture is not where you want it to be, disrupt it then. Now's the time. People are resilient. People are used to all these changes. And honestly, they're going to appreciate it. If your culture is, and it needs some fine tuning, do that now. Put those incremental changes into place and be really intentional about how you're returning to office or coming up with a hybrid solution or what sort of individual approaches you're taking to support your team, because there is no one size fits all solution for people. So you really need to meet each person where they are. And then you will see, I think, a really strong growth in your culture.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that companies have benefited from in this time of disruption, where it was this idea of normal before and what should happen and how things should be. And all of a sudden we've been forced to challenge that and to think, well, why do we think that about the way things are done? And I think a lot of companies are better for it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so in terms of those changes, you mentioned quite a few changes in terms of the demand for more flexibility, the need for organizational cultures to revamp in order to fit the new need of this changing workforce. What other changes, major changes, have you seen in this space that you work in since the beginning of the pandemic? Whether that's on the employee side, for example, or the client side, the organizational side.
Yeah, I think that people reflected a lot more on their life. Actually, I know that I have some data around it, right? So I worked with a group called Question Pro, and they did a survey of hundreds of people. Did you reflect on your life more during the pandemic? And 81% said that they did. And so that's why you're seeing this great resignation. That's why you're seeing people making changes in the work that they're doing. And not only that, they're making life changes as well. I mean, you hear stories of people who are finally eating dinner with their family for the first time in 15 years because they no longer have the commute, or who have finally got their health in check. They no longer are on blood pressure medication because they could finally take care of their, diet and exercise. And so all of these really impactful life changes have caused people to go, what do I really want out of life? Never mind grappling with a global pandemic and all, the potential of getting sick or losing loved ones. I mean, there's so much that I think, unfortunately, what happens is a crisis will often cause people to really reflect what it is. It's unfortunate that it has to become a crisis for that to happen. But, so I think that for on the clients or on the people side, you're going to see people making a lot of changes. They're going to be leaving organizations they may have been at for a long time. You're going to see more people, I think, trying gig work. I think you're going to see people being like, well, I don't know if I want to be tied to this corporation anymore. What is it? What do I really want to do? And why don't I just try that out? Why don't I just experiment a little bit? I know over the course of my career, I have counseled numerous people on going from a full-time worker to being a gig worker. And that has not slowed down during the pandemic for sure. So I think you see that. And again, with organizations, I think that the organizations that are going to survive on the other end of this are really focusing on their people. They're seeing the value in the human resources that they have, you know, even with all of the AI and digitization and automation and machine learning, people are behind all that. So you really need to treat your people right. And like I said before, it's an individual game. You can't have a blanket, well, this is going to work for everybody. Nor can you say, well, if you don't work out, we'll just get that next person in because they can do your job. Because maybe they have the same skill set, but I guarantee you they don't have the same personality, experiences, expertise, you know, fit into the culture and the team. I mean, each person really can make or break a particular team or culture.
Yeah. And then the risk with that as well, if you have that mentality might push that new person out as well. So it really says something for that culture if you're so willing to dismiss your workers.
Yep.
But I like a lot of what you said as well, because you kind of emphasize also the need for reskilling. Because as you mentioned, with AI, with machine learning, with digitization, often the assumption is that humans are being pushed out of work and being replaced. And as you said, humans need to run these things. So therefore, while some jobs may go, there's a whole creation of other jobs which need persons to fill those roles as well.
100%. And again, those forward-thinking companies will acknowledge that, see that, and put the programs into place to help to upskill their current workers.
So if it is that you want to build a culture that is very inclusive of independent workers, what does that look like? So let's say an example with Inspirant, and a client comes to you and they say, I want to hire more gigsters. I want to hire more independent contractors. But right now my company isn't quite set up for that. Would Inspirant go about helping them create a culture and environment that can really be inclusive of independent workers?
That's a great question. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Inspirant and what we do, and maybe that would then help with the client's needs. So when we founded Inspirant, as I mentioned, you know, part of the work that I did with my previous company, I was often an independent contractor on bigger projects. So I was brought in, I was an instructional designer. So that's someone who writes training curriculum. So I would, you know, learn about what the changes were, whether it was in process or technology, and create a training program that would support that. So that would be me, but also on the project, there'd be a project manager or two, there would be maybe a business analyst, a graphic designer, maybe an e-learning specialist, you know, and I joke that we were kind of like Frankenstein together. You had all these different pieces of the puzzle and we put together. But in my experience as an instructional designer, it was not cohesive. It was very disjointed. And I just kind of felt like I was out of orbit. I was floating on my own in space. And so when we started Inspirant, when we initially started the company, I was the chief people officer and I was in charge of people and culture. I still am, but in that role, that was what I was brought on to do. And it was so important to me that regardless of our unconsultants, our team, if they were a full-timer or a gigster, that they felt like they were part of the Inspirant family. And so what that means is that everyone is an unconsultant, and that immediately takes away, oh, well, you're a full-timer, you're a 1099, as we say in the States. We're all part of Inspirant Group. We're all unconsultants. And what we do then is, so for the gigsters, everything is optional, but we do open up all of our cultural events. So yesterday we had our monthly birthday and anniversary celebration. Everyone got gifts, everyone gets swag, everyone's invited to our monthly lunch and learns and our social time. And we have quarterly all hands meetings. And prior to COVID, we were actually flying everybody in for this, regardless if you're a full-time or a gigster, you're part of the Inspirant family. And the benefits for the employee, obviously, is now they're part of a culture and they have a place to call home. And what we found is that those folks, when they have a choice for what contracts they want to take, they always want to take the contracts with us because we've welcomed them home. It grows the team. It provides, more opportunities for us to be diverse and to learn more from other people. And then the benefits to our clients and to the work that we're doing is that everyone understands what it means to live our core values and to represent Inspirant with the work that we're doing. So we see it as a win-win and couldn't be prouder of what we've built.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because I remember when we did this study, we did a global study to find out how people's work expectations were changing and how independent contractors, what were the challenges they faced. And the major challenges they kept identifying was that invisibility. They felt invisible within the company that they were working in, or they couldn't get information when they needed it, or they weren't recognized for the work that they did. They did quite expert work, but then only the full-time employees were getting the credit for it. So I like what you said in terms of just making sure that everyone feels included, everyone is recognized and valued, because then you don't have your key talent going elsewhere in the future. Because that was another thing that the study showed as well. It said gigsters were less likely to work with companies that treated them in that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, 100% of our team wants to come back. And during COVID, we didn't always have work for everybody. And so some of our gigsters had to take other roles, but we always kept in touch. And, we've had quite a few of them as their other contracts were coming due and we now have work for them, came right back to us, which just feels so good. It's like, I'm a little bit of like a mama hen. It's like, oh, you're coming home. Okay, come on back. It's so nice to have everybody.
Yeah, that's when you know you're doing something right. So what would you say is the main area when companies are going through the process of trying to engage independent contractors? What is the main area that companies tend to neglect?
I think it's the proper onboarding. So I'm talking as people working for Inspirant. Let's say though, I am, one of our clients that decides to engage independent workers. It's so important. So at Inspirant, we have several levels of onboarding. We have company onboarding. So it's like, welcome to Inspirant. Here are our core values. Here's what it means to be an unconsultant. Here's the team. We pair them up with a buddy, and get to know the company. And you have, those weekly buddy chats to just, feel like you're a part of the team. Yeah. But then there's also the project onboarding. So as part of that, we onboard them to the client and the client's culture, but then also the very deep specifics around the project that we're working on. And then also the roles, right? I mean, I think that's so often missed, like roles and responsibilities. And I think especially for, people who are new to an organization, to a team, to a culture, and then to the project, really helping them understand where they fit in to that, not only that team, but that organization as a whole, understanding upstream and downstream effects of the work that you're doing. All of that's really important and will help people to get a nice big picture of the importance of the work that they're delivering.
Yeah, that's so true. And it goes back to that point of where the gigster, not the employee, sorry, the independent contractor, they come into the company, they're not quite sure where they stand, and their work is affected by it, which means their future opportunities is affected by not knowing the right people in the company and so forth. So in one way, the company doesn't get the onboarding right, but then it's the independent contractor that's punished because of it. So
you're so right. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So where does tech fit into it in terms of building this culture out, this very inclusive culture where you can really accommodate the needs of all workers? What type of tech supports that process, that cultural transformation?
I think I go back to good old communication. So you have to communicate a multitude of ways to really reach your team. Not everybody takes in information in the same way. And also there's a lot of information out there. So we are taking in more information than we ever had, ever. And so there's a lot of noise. And so in order to really connect with your team and build that culture, you have to communicate in a bunch of different ways. And technology supports that. So the way our organization works and the way that I work is that tech is always kind of the last thing. How do we get the right tech to support what we're trying to do? But we always focus on process first, and then people. Make sure you have the right people to support whatever that optimized process is. And then we bring tech in to say, okay, now, clearly tech is essential, but what is the right tech to support what we're trying to do? I think so often people go to the market and they're like, that's going to fix all my problems. Let's do that. Yeah. And it doesn't, that. Yeah. So what we use, so within Inspirant, so at the clients, we use whatever they want us to use. We will often offer our advice and guidance if they don't have anything in place, but with Inspirant, we have a wide variety of ways that we communicate with each other. We were a remote first company when we were founded in 2017. So doing a video call was not anything new to us starting in 2020. And this is how we prefer to connect. There's a really big difference if you're not going to be in person, face-to-face with somebody, being able to see their body language and see their face and see how they react. So we've done this since day one. We also use, we're a Microsoft shop, so we use Teams, and we have, different ways of communicating. And our team is really good at sharing. One of my coworkers is on vacation this week, but she's kind of half on vacation, she said. So she's like, if you need to get in touch with me, send me a text. If it's not so urgent, send me an IM. If it can wait, send me an email. And we're really good at, okay, great. If it's not important, I'll send you an email. If it's urgent, I'll text you. So it's that kind of thing. We'll often, I'll pick up the phone and call team members throughout the day just to check in and say hi and see what's going on. So it's multiple different ways of getting in touch. And then there's also, this is, the lowest tech possible, but as people are comfortable more and more, we are getting together face to face. And as important as it is to be flexible and letting people work wherever they work best, whatever meets their needs, there is something to being in person together and sharing a meal together or having an experience, having some sort of bonding experience together. So all of those contribute to building a strong culture.
Yeah, I like how you give the examples of the complete blend and mix. And you said something really important, which was the tech comes after. And I know after the, at the beginning of the pandemic, everyone was talking about digital transformation. Every workshop we did or speaking engagement, people were asking about the right tools and whatnot. And we kept saying it's not about just digital transformation. That's a means to an end. It's about business transformation. And that was one of the key things that you highlighted there. And the other thing I liked is where you mentioned the communication protocols, because it's one thing to say, okay, we're now using Teams, we're now using Google Meet, we're now using all of these things, but for what purpose and in what way, and do you need them all? So I like that you say, okay, we use an IM for this purpose. If it's not urgent, we use a text. And I think those sort of protocols when it comes to communication make all the difference in the world. So that's pretty important.
Good. Yeah.
Great job, Instrument. Yes. All right, so we're just about to wrap up. But before we go, would you like to tell us your funniest work story? I'm sure you have a lot in this space.
I was trying to think of what I should share. So I'm just going to go for it, Rochelle. Yeah. So my first job ever, when I was 15 years old, I got a job at McDonald's. And I loved it. I just love working, and that has not changed. It's so funny. My husband and I talk about retirement, and I'm like, I don't ever see myself. I love working. So I loved my first job at McDonald's. I felt very proud of making the French fries and working on the cash register. And I did that for 4 summers through high school and into my first year of college. And I think it was toward the end of my second summer, I had been enjoying the McDonald's. And, the pants were getting a little tight. And I remember I bent down to grab some cups. I needed to refill the cup station for the drinks. And I heard a gigantic tear. And yes, it was straight at the back of my pants. And you're supposed to wear your shirts tucked in. That's part of the uniform. And I just was mortified. And I mean, there was a huge line. The McDonald's I worked at was right by an amusement park. So we would get huge buses of people coming in. And so there were a lot of people there that witnessed that situation.
Oh, people saw. I guess it was like in the back or something. You should have taken your apron and worn it at the back. You would have probably created a new style.
Well, my manager at the time was very kind. I like ran back there. I was like, help. And she got me a larger pair of pants. And we went on from there.
And lay off those chips. Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Meighan. And thank you for sharing, especially about what Inspirant does and how companies can adjust to this new workspace, because it's not just about remote work. And I think in this new space, after the pandemic and that shift to remote work, a lot of companies think, well, this is it. This is the future. We are here. We're ready now. We switch to remote work, not realizing that it's an entire switch. People's work expectations are changing. And as people shift more towards different types of roles and contracts, then that's going to require a lot more from companies than just adjusting to remote work. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rochelle. Thanks for having me on. And I always learn so much from you, and I just really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thank you. So lovely to see you again. Now I'm feeling better as well. All right, take care, and thank you to our audiences for listening. And this has been another episode of Remotely Speaking Up. Bye.